Welcome back to Tony McAllippin Games. So we're going to be in part two going over the content of the Celebrating 20 Years of Xbox book by XboxEra. Hopefully you've watched part one. This is part two. So part one we go through a little bit to do with XboxEra, anything overly in depth. And the Kickstarter campaign. Going to touch on in this episode stuff to do with the content and kind of the drives to why I'm trying to get this information out, and kind of the catalyst, I guess, as to kind of what caused me to want to get some information out there about this and even generally start this YouTube channel, to be honest. Alright, getting to it. We're going to go back to the Kickstarter page. We're going to go to one of the updates that was received. So this is update 20. So this was only released to backers only. Look, not overly adversed in Kickstarter. I'm not too sure like how much information. You just go look up other random Kickstarters and updates for those campaigns or whatever the case may be, or how much information is available to you to a non-backer of that campaign. Yeah, I just don't know. So I'm assuming there are some sort of like privacy type levels to this. So this information here was, only visible to backers only. I think due to the fact that there was content being released to the backers that they had paid for. So, update 20. This is Christmas 2022. So we are now a full 12 months into the campaign. We're currently 6 months behind schedule, as they were estimating books to be sent out June 2022. So to try and give some people some hope that it was still arriving, they've obviously sent out this particular update. So some of the key things here was what they provided was a near final. Now, I don't know how much more information they needed. They had done research and gathered information 12 months prior to the campaign going live, November 2021. They were even pretty clear with what information that they needed, and somehow it's taken 12 months to get a near final copy of the book. Of which I raised an issue with the book. I generally don't know if they were even tracking or not. At this point in time, I thought these guys were being operated out of the US. Like, I didn't actually know that they were, or at least John, was in the UK. So this was the other mildly frustrating, upsetting part about this whole thing as well. I'm not too sure what it is like for other console collecting platforms. I think it's getting better from like videos that I've just watched over the years and just general knowledge and understanding. But at least for the OG Xbox, it's constantly like, yep, I've got the complete set of Xbox games, or I've got this, I've got that. And it's like, there hasn't been, I guess, the quantity of collectors to kind of even out the knowledge yet, I guess, if that makes any sense. Where, I guess for a lot of the older cartridge-based systems, like Nintendo, Sega, whatever the case is, it's like, hey, I've got the full North American set. I've got the full PAL set for Sega Dreamcast, or the bloody Mega System or whatever the case might be, right? Sorry, Mega System, Master System, or the Mega Drive. They're typically very specific, even like to the point where it's like, hey, I've only got the first publisher released games, because a lot of the older consoles, people are still developing homebrew and releasing it to physical media, which is great to see. So there's even that level of separation in the collecting. However, at least for the original Xbox stuff, it's like, yep, I've got the full set, and it's like, oh, did you get all the Japanese exclusives? Did you get all the PAL exclusives? Do you have this particular set of the games? And they've just got absolutely no clue. That was the basket that I thought these guys were originally in. Then I found out they were in the UK, of which again is another PAL territory, which hopefully once I give some of this information is going to get an understanding of my level of frustration at this scenario. So they send out a digital version of their near final, mind you, book that has been in the works for 24 months at this point. So, blah, 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 send in names, etc. I'm gonna probably diverge a little bit here. You might be wondering, like, well, you're having a bit of a shit fit about the games constantly. And you're right, I am. So, as a bit of a breakdown, the quantity of pages to my right, your left, is the printed section to do purely with games in their book. And then the first part of it is to do with just fluff to do with the Xbox. And even the XboxEra team and interviews and other bits and pieces. Like, you could probably even cut that down a little bit to actual useful information that you may actually want to read. And then the big part of it is to do with the game. So you can see 3/4 of the book is to do with the games. So it's a big deal. That's where the majority of your money went as a backer. So in this particular update, getting the digital version, having a look through, because again, I wasn't aware of their web page where it had stated like the 794 games. For reference, the PAL library is well over 800 games. The NTSC library is well over 800 games. I think it's even over 850 games. The NTSC J Japan set, that's like 200 odd games. The official numbers for the Taiwanese set, even the Korean set, being NTSC J, numbers really aren't known about those. There is actually bugger all information on those, but I'm going to imagine they're quite small. So the 794 that was originally claimed, I was never aware of whilst I was actually going through this campaign. It was only whilst I've done some research. Just wildly not accurate. So in the update, I'm like, where are all the PAL and NTSC-J exclusives? There are games that exist outside of NTSC. Again, I thought the standard thing of like these guys are just operating out of the US, basically couldn't think past the end of their old fellas, and that was all the games that existed for the original Xbox. I gave them a couple of snippets here from their actual campaign page, reiterating a celebration of all the games, 360 pages containing a full and detailed history and timeline of every game ever released on the original Xbox console. Like, yep, you're correct. We've collated some of the more unique titles and they will be added, the team up on it. I read that and I was like, that's just an absolute piss take. Because what would you mean by unique titles? You would put all of the titles in that you don't currently have printed in the book. You don't hand select. There are games that were not a part of, I would say, the primary NTSC library, because that's what a lot of people base their primary collections off of. There are about 100 odd PAL exclusives, and then I think about 50 odd, probably even a little bit more, Japanese exclusives. So that's a good chunk of the overall library for the original Xbox that they were just going to hand select unique titles from and print. A far cry from the verbiage of every game released on the original Xbox console, or all of the games. That's very clear in that terminology. Getting to the actual overall quantity of games for the original Xbox. I don't think anyone could hand on heart actually give a genuine figure, because there is no, I guess, good defining terms for how to count an original Xbox game. So I'll go into that a little bit. So if you were to play an Xbox game, put it in, you would save your game, you would have what would be a save file on the system, and it would have its own unique ID or title ID or something to that effect. I can't remember what the specific terminology is called. However, it gets its own unique game code, title, ID, whatever you want to refer to it as. So I don't think it is specifically known how many of those there are. That would be a means to count the total quantity of games. A big contentious point that I guess, at least within the PAL stuff at least anyway, and if you're wanting to go for a worldwide set, if it was a case of primary NTSC and then building it out with PAL and Japanese, the club football subset of games of the PAL set. For the most part, it's got the same title of the game, which would be Club Football Season 03-04 or Club Football 2005. Being a big UK, EU type of based game, and soccer, football, whichever part of the world you want to come from, is a fairly heavily watched sport. You could buy your team's game on the console. So some of the big ones like Arsenal, Manchester, Chelsea, stuff like that, you could get your team and buy the specific game. So you could classify it, and most lists you would see on the internet basically have Club Football 2003-04 and then Club Football 2005 as just a single entry. It's a bit of an achievement to try and get this complete subset within PAL, because it can be quite difficult. And the other part of it is each one of those games technically have, from what I've been told by someone I would trust within the PAL collecting community, that each one of those games has their own unique ID. So you could classify each one of those games as a unique title, as an individual game to collect, of which there are 30 odd between 2003-04 and the 2005 games. Hopefully I'll be able to provide a video later on in the channel that you can actually have a look at that. If you're curious, go check out my Instagram page that I mentioned in part 1 of the video, Tony McLovin Games. I've got some photos up of that very specific subset with the specific quantity, but it's greater than 2, which most lists account for, is the kind of what I'm getting at here. Likewise, you have, I would say, special editions or Game of the Year edition type of games. One of them being The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. There was just the regular Elder Scrolls 3 game, and then later on there was a Game of the Year edition released. I can't confirm whether they've both got their own unique IDs as far as games go. Some people count them as two. I would count it as two. However, some may not, because it's technically just Elder Scrolls 3, just a Game of the Year variant or edition. Another good one is Grand Theft Auto. So, going back to part one, there was the Power On, the Xbox, story of the Xbox. The developers for Grand Theft Auto originally went to Microsoft first, and then basically turned them down because they didn't think they were going to make the transition from like the top-down view of Grand Theft Auto 2 to a 3D game that was Grand Theft Auto 3. Massive mistake, obviously, now knowing how popular that franchise is. So yeah, someone somewhere's probably kicking himself. However, the PlayStation, that's where they eventually went to and got released on first, had their own individual titles. You could buy Grand Theft Auto 3 separately, you could buy Vice City separately, and then on original Xbox and PlayStation 2 you could then get Grand Theft Auto San Andreas separately as well. But for the original Xbox, and even in sales figures, the Grand Theft Auto, the Xbox Collection, which is what it's referred to as, contains Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So another way you can count for games is individual sales of a game. So do you technically class Grand Theft Auto, the Xbox Collection, as a single title? Or do you class it as two individual titles because it has two individual games to play? And I would assume then two unique IDs because you have two separate save files. So there are a number of ways to skin this cat with regards to the total quantity of games for the original Xbox. Either or, you are looking in the vicinity of about 1,000 games, swinging in either direction on whether you want to count all of the club football games, which goes considerably higher, to more of a standard type of recognised list for the North American audience, which is about the sub 1,000 mark, and then it can vary plus or minus from there with the additions and just other game variants, like the Black Label game variants, that is. As an example that I gave to do with the Game of the Year for the Elder Scrolls. So XboxEra coming out and saying 794 is an absolute wild piss take. I don't even know how they got to that number, or they were just making it known that, hey, we could only find information for 794 games, which is also kind of crazy because there's a lot of good information out there. You just need to look for it appropriately. That would counteract that in a heartbeat, which we're going to go through in a second. So, for this part, did a bit of a quick Google search just to see if there was any content online currently to do with this XboxEra book. What have we got here? Yeah, ordered it 2021. Yep. Basically forgot all about it until it arrived in the post 2 weeks later. Yeah, like for some of the people that probably pledged to one of the lower tiers, if you didn't have to contribute any additional information that basically that highest tier did, or you weren't very proficient with Kickstarter your first time, or you're just like, hey, that seems pretty cool, someone sent me a link, I'm just going to pay for this, and then hopefully it should just turn up, it may have generally been quite a surprise. They're a bit annoyed actually because certain as a backer it asks for your gamer tag. That was dependent on the level. Here's another one 10 months ago. This is more of a question on if anyone's getting it or not. Sorry, I will go back here. Here we go. Looks a lot worse than the Kickstarter. The write-ups look generic too. I'm sure some of it is just copied from marketing material. Yep, so they're referring to some of the content in the book. There was so much white space too, looks sparse. So that white space that they're referring to would be some of the high tier backer sections where you have some of this going on. And this was one of the hold-ups for the release of the book. Now, I couldn't specifically say this was an XboxEra issue. This was definitely the people who paid for that content. And again, this definitely could have been managed better, or mistakes were made basically. Yeah, it looks sparse in a bad way and nothing like a book celebrating 20 years of a key console. Yeah, it's a bit naff. Completely forgot I'd even backed it. So Daryl, yep, so this is the same bloke. Completely forgot I'd even backed it. They were supposed to ship them November 21. It arrived last week. No, they weren't getting shipped November 21. That's when the campaign started. As we've seen, it was supposed to get shipped about June 2022. Either or, it was still goddamn exceptionally late. Again, another Reddit post. This was just kind of like what was on the first page of Google when doing a search for this. Not a whole lot of information. All right. Now getting to the major gripe that I have with this book, and that was their apparent knowledge of games. The primary issue with this, and I don't know if it's just this very specific console or whatever the case may be, but there is already enough fluff, enough BS, enough noise when it comes to regards to false and misleading information to do with original Xbox games online. And I'm going to go through a few examples of that now. So what's annoying is there doesn't need to be more of that noise added when you're trying to actively collect for the system and find accurate, relevant information. Alright, again, this was just doing a quick Google search, just hitting a couple of links on the first page. So, we've got Moby Games. There are 1,016 video games on Xbox. Look, that's pretty ballpark, depending on which way you want to slice it. They were released between the years 2001 and 2016. That's interesting. Yeah, people, who knows how they figured that, and that. That's interesting though. So, go to sort by 2001. Again, here we go, 2016. Well, that game definitely didn't release for the console. Neither did this one. yeah, definitely not games that released on the original Xbox console. It is reasonably well known that the last game made for the console was indeed Madden NFL 09. So it doesn't take too long to start squashing some of this information. So it's like, how good is the rest of the accuracy of this information? Here we go. What's this one? TrueAchievements.com. Original Xbox games. Well, that's pretty bloody short. There's probably 40, 50 games on there at best. Again, these games were probably released on the original Xbox. I think, very quick glance, that all looks okay. However, grossly incomplete. What's this one? Game Guide. This sounds sort of official. Last updated 29th of March. Sounds okay. Some dribble. Alright. Original Xbox games list. Here's a list of original Xbox games. That was definitely not released on the console. I think that was the 360 title. Don't quote me on that though, but not original Xbox. Yep. Unaware of Banjo-Kazooie games that released for the original Xbox. That doesn't sound familiar. That doesn't sound familiar. Really wasn't aware that Dark Souls released for the original Xbox. Dead Space, Dead Rising. What happened to the rest of the ESPN games? Interesting. Again, more faff information. Mildly recently updated too, apparently. What do we got here? List of import games for original Xbox. I'm assuming this is an American site or a North American site. XBMC Xbox blog spots may not have been updated for some time, 2013. List of import games for original Xbox. Released only in Japan and Asia. So these are Japanese NTSC games. A few here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. I mean, they've got about half of them for Japan. A few more for PAL here. Mostly okay, definitely missing a few though. Again, more faff information. So this is where people typically get the quantity of games from. I think this has been reasonably well updated in recent times. So typically when people say or ask the question, how many games does the original Xbox have? This is typically the number that's quoted of the 998. We'll go through here, we'll kind of break this down and try and give some positive and some negative examples, I guess. Alright, 998 games. So this is the worldwide set of games. So, just a fun fact, the AFL Live and the Premiership games here, these were Australian. These were the 4 Australian exclusive games. So not only were they PAL exclusive, they were only Australian exclusive. So that's kind of cool. What have we got here? Let's check out Grand Theft Auto. Eh? Let's see how they do that. Here we go. So this particular list, as I mentioned before, separates Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. So they've got the same release dates for Xbox purely for the fact that the games were released in the Xbox collection together. They do not have a standardized cover that's on the actual box itself. You could even argue the point of, is that a standard game, or does that get into the realms of big box collecting for the console, which is its own separate thing again, because they're not the slim cases, I guess. What's another one? Frankie Dettori. Alright, so the Melbourne Cup then. There we go. So Melbourne Cup Challenge, Frankie Dettori Racing. Same shit, different smell. They've listed just one game here, which is good. So 2 separate titles, 1 game. Club Football, that was the other good one. So I'm pretty sure this list, yeah, so you got Club Football, which is the 2003-2004 season of games, and then you've got Club Football 2005, which is Club Football 2005. And from there, you have a whole bunch of team variants, I guess. So this is typically where people derive the total quantity of games. Now, fun fact, that didn't take me 12 months of research to find. Go figure. I believe this list of games has been active some period of time. I think the number has been fluctuating somewhat with the better accuracy of information. However, I don't think it's been... Actually, you know what? Let's do something fun. We'll check the Wayback Machine. I'm just going a bit yellow here. We'll let's have a look. So 998. Let's go to... Pretty sure this was November 2021. Oh my god. Yeah, November 21 the Kickstarter launched. So let's try that first. 21. Let's we'll go beforehand. Work. Alright, so this is October 18th, 2021. We've got a total of 996 titles. I wonder if it was because Zilla Net was added. That's there. Alright. Look, I don't know what games were specifically added, but here we are. 996. Definitely not 794. 12 months of research, so let's go 2020. Early November. Alrighty. This list has got 1,001 titles. you can definitely see this number's been fluctuating. So like over the period of 20, so 3 and a bit years, that number's gone down and up. Like, as I said, I don't think you could find someone that could accurately define how many games there are for this console. As I said, you're going to be looking in about that 1,000-ish region, depending on the individual and what they recognize for their own collecting needs. So for the Xboxera guys, like if they were of the attitude or the mandate that 794 is it, they were out by an absolute country mile. If it was from the standpoint of, hey, we could only find 794, interesting that they came to that conclusion through literally 5 minutes of Google searching. They could have come up with a more accurate number and been able to provide a better product. Definitely didn't take 12 months to find this information. Yeah, so that kind of frames the quantity of games. So I haven't gone through and done a specific count. According to my count in the book, I had by year 785. So I don't think they can even get their number correct. All right. So if you're looking to start your original Xbox collecting journey, this isn't a bad place to start. This is fairly accurate. It looks like it's being updated with more and more accurate information every year. Definitely a good place to start. I would say through your collecting journey, you're going to find other collectors and more accurate information, more accurate lists. There is just stuff that is out there that you will be able to find if you're proactive about it. Another interesting site, you typically find these all over the place, typically with fairly faff information as well. This was prices current as of 2023, November 2023, so fairly recently updated would be my assumption. Recent growth of North American retail games, Yelp, Steel Battalion, that is really going up in price a substantial amount. I'm assuming this pricing is in USD. Sorry, I'm unaware of what it actually is. North American, yep, NTSC, blah, blah, blah. There's like some other additional valuable games. In all honesty, like, this looked okay. What was an absolute surprise to see was some of the PAL stuff on here as well. Typically, you'll find here are the top 10 rarest games for the original Xbox, and it's like the standard list of games that some NTSC collector came up with. I have no idea how long ago. However, for being the 10 rarest games, every man his damn dog seems to have these 10 rarest games in their collection for North American collectors. So go figure. What was good to see, and typically what's never included, is the worldwide set. Again, getting back to, hey, here's the top rarest NTSC games. Here are the top rarest NTSC Japan games. Here's the top rarest PAL games. So it was good to see that they actually broke this out. They didn't really provide any pricing. There really isn't good pricing, to be perfectly honest, or tracking to do with a lot of these power games, which is unfortunate. Again, getting better, not completely the greatest though. Room Zoom, definitely rare. Gel and Showdown, again, definitely bloody rare. If you are collecting power, one of, or if not both of those games will probably be in the last few games that you probably need to collect for, unless you've previously known someone that has this game and has sold it to you just privately, or you've just lucked out and contacted a collector at that particular point in time who previously had one for sale. Generic Joe Blow, if you're just out there collecting, going to shops, meets, whatever the case is, these will more than likely be on your list of games. What it's worth, these games, Australian dollars, you can kind of translate into your own currency wherever you are. Talking a good condition, complete game, so minimal damage to the inlay, nice crispy manual, good disc with no cracking or disc rot, good colour to the inlay, you're going to be looking in excess of 500 Australian dollars each for these games. If you get them cheaper than that, there's probably some condition issues, or if you get it real cheap, you've lucked out and got an absolute bargain. Yeah, by comparison, it absolutely blows most of the NTSC games as the most expensive or the most rare games out of the water. Very rare items. Again, fact information that's just started of like, here's all the rare games, and it's just like all these generic dog water NTSC titles. Additional power rarities. This was also a pretty reasonable list as well. Yeah, Frankie Dettori, rare variant to get. Gene Troopers, again, you can get some language variants cheaper. Overall, this list was reasonably accurate in my opinion. And my opinion is purely based on the fact that I currently have a complete power set of games for the original Xbox. So I've been doing this for a couple of years, not an extended period of time, but in my experience and in my opinion, this is reasonably accurate. So just wanted to point out a good example of some good information out there. However, trust but verify. By comparison though, the amount of good information out there is almost outnumbered 10 to 1 with faff BS. Again, don't need more of it. Alright, so that was a lot of the kind of the build up to the actual content of the book. Now, I kind of got the shits after I kind of started and trying to find, like, just randomly going through, not even that with a fine-tooth comb, just finding issues and errors and mistakes and just poor information. Again, getting back to it, the right-hand side, my right, is the quantity of information that I paid for to do with getting information to do with all the games released for the original Xbox, which is a primary portion of the book. So, a couple of highlights with the issues to do with this publication. Well, you might be wondering why I'm wearing a new shirt. It's a new day and my camera went dead partway through recording the last little segment. So going to go back to going through a lot of the printing errors, information errors in the back part of the book. So this isn't all by any stretch. It was getting to like such a gross percentage of errors on every page. It just basically stopped at that point. The overall presentation of the book is pretty good. The colors are pretty contrasting. It doesn't look terrible by any stretch of the imagination. The formatting, the color choice, it goes pretty good. There's not too many issues with that. The quality of the book, being the actual physical book itself, is pretty good. I'm not gonna hate on that. It's more to do with the content that XboxEra has made and then published. So we're going to go through just a few of the common things that I was starting to pick up and was a reoccurring theme throughout this book. So this is the standard format of the pages for displaying all the game information. What was a continual repeat of just formatting error was the standardization of the front cover or the inlaid pictures. Here, the way that they've laid out the book is primarily all the NTSC games, then it goes into the Japanese games and then the PAL games. So it's all fairly standardized between at least the NTSC and the Japanese stuff, and then the PAL just falls off an absolute cliff. Over here we've got NFL Fever 2002. It's currently got a not for resale inlay picture there. Fairly sure that there's a not for resale version available. Fusion Frenzy, again there's a non-NTSC inlay picture there, cover picture. This standard of information is pretty good. Like you get some dates, some basic information. I'm assuming potentially the blurbs off the back of the cases. This is nice. Like this, it doesn't need to be over the top. Like this was a good standard to achieve. It's just the attention to detail is lacking. There we go. Here's just a random page that I just opened to, getting to the next thing. NTSC cover, PAL, PAL, NTSC, NTSC. Yep, all those are NTSC. It's like open a page and count the errors at that point. Again, NTSC, PAL, NTSC. This game here, I'm not even going to attempt to try and pronounce it. From what I've found, if you see images on the internet of covers or inlays that don't have the NTSC rating, a specific power rating, it's most likely a fake image or a photoshopped image. It's just a bit of a giveaway. So here's something that I actually liked what they did. This bit I didn't like, again, just another example. North American, PAL, North American, North American, PAL, North American, North American. Obviously, yeah, they're prioritizing all the NTSC covers to start with, which is fine. Obviously, you can see the cover here for Death Row, the NTSC cover for it. And then they've included the PAL version, which I thought was a nice touch. Obviously, the game isn't a region exclusive, so they've included both the cover art variants. Between the two regions, a lot of it is the same, so it is nice that they've included a couple of different versions here. I personally would have liked to have seen more of that. It means someone actually put some time and effort in and actually, I guess, knew what they were researching. Just looking for the next one here. So here's the Grand Theft Auto, the double pack, the Xbox collection, whatever you want to call it. It's a double pack because you get 2 games in one, so to speak. So the format, the sizing of the box is what's referred to as a big box in original Xbox collecting. But they've identified it here in their counting of quantity for games as a single game. So obviously this is the collection that has Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. They've just decided to count it as one and not split out the 2 games, which is fine. That's how it was sold. Then next to it, got a PAL cover picture in the NTSC range here. So again, just something good. Well, it's not something good as far as the Grand Theft Auto. But yeah, just a continual repeat of the same errors. Something that happened between the NTSC region games and the PAL games is there was sometimes a title difference in the game. So similar to Melbourne Cup and Frankie Dettori that I was talking about, that was within PAL. There are naming convention differences between PAL and NTSC. And I mean, I don't know who did the final look over in the book, but this is Pro Beach Soccer, so the PAL cover variant, and they've got Ultimate Beach Soccer, which is the NTSC naming convention for it. It's just simple shit like this that should have just been picked up in the final read over. Alright, another pretty good page here. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the 8 cover pictures here being PAL, and then the other 3 are NTSC. Again, standardization of information. This formatting error occurs semi-irregularly. Again, it just, oh, there it is over this page. It's just distracting to look at. It's just normally a continuous line like you can see on other pages, and then it's just like, what the fuck happened here? Obviously they just needed to reset their formatting so that the line was continuous. Again, attention to detail stuff. The issue on this one here, DTM Race Driver 3, that was the PAL German naming convention for that series of games. The NTSC series was the Toka Race Driver series. That's also what came out in the UK. And then in Australia, we got the V8 Supercars Australia series. But again, clearly the incorrect, or not the incorrect, but just the text between the actual game title and the title in the book is just not accurate. So find the appropriate picture. Yep, sorry, missed one over here. We've got Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition. There was then Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition Remix. They've just used the Dub Edition image for the title of Dub Edition Remix. Again, simple attention to detail stuff. Alright, onto the NTSC-J Japanese games. Looked like someone put some time and effort into this section, which was nice. There was still like 10%, which was about the overall percentage of games that was missing from this book, from the Japanese exclusives, along with including games in the section that were not Japanese exclusive, just purely because they look Japanese. So NTSC looks like someone put some reasonable amount of effort in. NTSC-J looks like someone put some reasonable amount of effort in. Again, same flavour of attention to detail, wrong images, non-region exclusive games, just it goes on. Here's an example of where they kind of did the box set art, or the limited edition art. So good to see that. Again, they were just including additional images. So again, I would have liked to have seen more of that throughout the book. Power cover variant game in the NTSC-J exclusive section. Obviously, if you can find it in PAL, then it's not a Japanese exclusive, and also find the correct image. These couple of pages are mildly upsetting. Daemon Vector, that was the only Taiwanese exclusive release for the console. Whilst it has NTSC-J on the cover, it is not a Japanese game. I also believe Zillanet is missing from the book as well, which was the Korean exclusive. Whilst it does say NTSC-J on the cover, yep, Korean. I think that was completely missed out of this book as well. And considering they mentioned that they spent 12 months researching stuff to do with the games, the outcome is absolutely poor and abysmal. Now, getting to what I was hoping to be going to be a fairly good update of information for the power collecting stuff. As you can see, this is the standard that was released. By comparison to the North American and the Japanese sets, the amount of information here is utterly piss poor. It seems like just the largest afterthought in this whole publication. Getting back to it, where at least John is from, the UK, is a PAL territory. So I don't know if everyone is based out of there or they're scattered around the globe, but it's mildly disappointing that people from the PAL regions couldn't get their own shit correct. Again, lack of information, lack of knowledge. There doesn't need to be more of it out there. Test Drive Overdrive, not a PAL exclusive. Again, common theme stuff here again. Incorrect pictures, games that are not that region exclusive. Incorrect pictures to the name of the game that's listed in the book. Putting pictures up of the wrong PAL within obviously the different PAL countries. Certain games got different titles, so they've just put the wrong titled game against the title in the book. We've already seen instances of this already. Funnily enough, they stuck the NTSC cover picture in the PAL section and then the PAL one in the NTSC section, but as you can guess, if you can get it in both the regions, then it's not region exclusive, is it? And then just a blatant fuck up here of just the wrong picture for the game. So Melbourne Cup Challenge and Frank Dettori, have their own individual cover art. So this is where they could have done the split of the pictures potentially. Frankie Dettori Challenge is a fairly uncommon to rare game to pick up for the set. And that was about it. So I went through and did a count because it has a bit of an index, so indexed by games by year, and then I think it was games by name. So there was a count error between the by year and by name. Like they just left out a whole bunch of games by year, and then even then, doing the research for this video, just looking into it quickly, the 794 that XboxEra claimed to have put in here, I don't get that number in the index area. I get slightly lower by year, and then a considerable amount more by name, because I'm assuming they've added in the Japanese and the PAL stuff. But either or, both were well short of the actual total quantity of games for the system. Yeah. So I can't remember if I mentioned in part one, but if these do come up for sale just because they need to clear out stock, look, it's not bad to have a bit of a read. If they're still charging the pricing that they were during the Kickstarter campaign, do not buy it. There is better information out there on the internet than what is in this book. I would strongly recommend to go watch the Power On, the story of the Xbox docu-series. That'll probably give you most of the information that's in the first part of this book anyway, to greater detail and depth. So that basically gets rid of that. Legitimately, up until this point, like whilst I've not been in the Xbox scene an exceptionally long time, had never heard of XboxEra to this point, or what their involvement was potentially even with original Xbox collecting or that original Xbox scene. Just unheard of. So again, by not getting the book, you're not missing out on anything. And then as far as the games go, there is better information that is starting to come out slowly over time because more people are starting to collect for the system. So it is getting better, but if these guys end up running a Kickstarter campaign for the Xbox 360, I think because their 20th anniversary is next year for that console, 2025 I believe, don't go anywhere near it. Considering they missed out on like a fifth of the games for the original Xbox, and that set is only, like the worldwide set, is only about 1,000 games. For the Xbox 360, I think there's about 1,000 games just in the PAL set alone. So if they can't get the original Xbox system correct, I highly doubt they're going to even remotely get close to the Xbox 360. Saw a few comments online of like, yep, this is just going to be another one of those gaming related items that's going to sit in a box somewhere, sitting on a shelf and not get much use. That's basically what's going to happen with this, to be perfectly honest. It'll just go sit on a shelf. They'd be like, oh cool, here was this thing that I bought how many ever years ago. Pull it out, have a quick flick, and then put it back on the shelf. Like, I'm not going to be using this as some sort of definitive amount of information or a guide to collecting, or finding out information to do with the original Xbox. Mildly disappointing to say the least. The Kickstarter component of it, again, I think I summed it up on my Instagram page of like it was over-promised and under-delivered, and it was exceptionally late. So, considering the promise it had when it first, like the campaign came to light, it was tracking ahead pretty nicely, and then just absolute train wreck after that. All right, if you got one of these books, leave a comment below. Be curious to hear your thoughts on it. Like, again, there's not a whole lot online about these things. I don't think there were that many made, to be perfectly honest, like a few hundred type of deal. Drop a comment, leave a like on the video. I mean, if you disliked it, you do you. All right, until the next time, you legends. Have a good one.